There's this lovely Hindu legend for where this all began. You really want to know, the Big Bang? Here is the non-dual Big Bang, which I think will be eventually be discredited as that's just preposterous. But that's the best physicists have come up with at this point. And this is the best maybe within this context. So there's this lovely Hindu legend of the God of the universe, the self, seeing life as play, Layla. And since the self is and will timelessly be all there is and has no one who is separate to play with, it's kind of lonely in a way, right? And it wants to play. So he, she plays this cosmic hide-and-seek game with himself, herself, putting on masks, playing roles, taking on identities. And it's oh so much fun. Keep ourselves busily engaged in one distraction after another until the day we drop dead. Ain't it beautiful? And this continues only for 1 to 2 million years and still counting as of this moment. You're the latest link in this ongoing chain, this ongoing story, this ongoing evolution. It's really marvelous. Until finally, ultimately, the self awakens from the fantasy, the dream, to again remember and claim true identity as the one. Original nature, true self. Ultimately Buddha. Every one of us. And it's already existent inside of you this very moment. You'll be the last one to know about it, in all likelihood. I don't guarantee you too many things. That one I'll guarantee. I think I'm on solid ground. And the one, in Advaita Vedanta, it means one without a second. So there's no other. There's nothing to compare you with. An ego, or this imaginary sense of self, can be seen as consciousness seeming to pretend that it is our original nature and doing a darn fine job of it. Don't you think? I mean, kudos all around. Ought to get Best Picture, Best Actor, and Best Actress. And Best Director. Throw that one in. It's done just an incredible job. Pretending it's our original nature. So here we have a nothing pretending to be a something. And we buy it until we see it and begin to, of course, buy out of it, shed it, outgrow it. And it has its place. When you're about 2 years old, there's a developmental stage where, you become this little person. I, me, mine, favorite word is no. And it's a necessary and important building block developmentally, or else you get locked in primary narcissism and borderline behavior. And you probably throw in psychosis and a few other things. But they never built a sense of self. That's really important to build a sense of self. Okay, not this thin veneer stuff, but the real McCoy. Even though that too is a fabrication. And then, somewhere in the late teens, early 20s, maybe late 20s, it's time to shed that. Snakes know how to shed their skins, don't they? You don't see them crawling back in the skin, putting duct tape to get them back on, do you? Doesn't make any sense. They shed it and they move on. Well, we can shed it and we can move on. It's just a developmental stage. It was never meant that we're there to be locked in until the day we die. At least I can't imagine it. I don't see it. We have a few moments to talk about the absolute realm. What are we talking about? What is this realm of existence and beingness and original nature and who we truly are and absolute truth? All these terms that get ballied about. You can throw in Atman and Brahman and God and divinity. What is all this? This is a very ancient question, by the way. And of course, no one has any idea. I don't have any more than you do. What do I know? But this is a very, very old question to sort out the relative from the absolute, the thing in itself. I'll give you 2 quick examples from philosophy. Plato has a marvelous metaphor called the allegory of the caves, where all these representations are like shadows on the cave. But we never get to really see the thing in itself, do we? And then another huge pillar of philosophy, Immanuel Kant, a bit later, talks about the Ding an sich, the thing in itself, being an unknown essence that transcends all appearances. So they both knew. So at best we can grasp at relative truths in this relative world and have these breakthrough moments when we get glimpses of the absolute. Sometimes in meditation, sometimes in epiphanies, sometimes in drug experiences, sometimes when all the shutters and constraints are freed for a moment and we get to see something we hadn't seen before. These incredible moments that are fleeting for most of us. Some people call that experience the experience of nirvana, and samadhi and satori being stepping stones in that direction. But all it really is the ending of the imaginary self's endless preoccupation and reflection on itself. That's really all it is. And in releasing that, its thoughts and desires and all its attachments, all that's left is the splendor and grace and spaciousness of this moment. You can call it a self-illuminating, vast suchness of being. Because words don't really get at it, do they? They do their best, but they all fell short. So this realm is timeless, spaceless, causeless, formless, birthless, deathless, judgmentless, boundless, infinite, eternal, meaning timeless. It transcends all that. So you really get a sense that it's also fathomless and unknowable, which is true. So a couple of things just put this all in proper perspective, because it's important to know what's at stake here. Nothing. Isn't that shocking? Absolutely nothing. So the Course in Miracles says this: nothing real can be threatened. That's a powerful statement. Nothing real can be threatened. So whatever is real is in absolutely no jeopardy from the moment you're born to the moment you die. Nothing. It's incredible. So nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Jed McKenna, a non-dual writer, in a book called Spiritually Incorrect Enlightenment: nothing true can be destroyed. Nothing false exists. The unreal has no being. The real never ceases to be. Now, how this all percolates through this body-mind instrument is that nothing real can be lost, and nothing unreal ever existed in the first place. And that rings true inside of this being. And in the absolute realm, what's left in the backpack? This is probably the most interesting in some ways. Well, clearly nothing that's personal or individual. There's a great anecdote about Jean Klein when he was asked the question about, well, what do you as a person think of blah, blah, blah? And he said, there's no person here. You have another question. It pretty much was the end of that question for the reviewer. Well, it's paradoxical, these two realms, you know. Nisargadatta Maharaj made a distinction between consciousness and awareness. Consciousness he saw as operating in the relative world of immanence, of this immediate moment, this. But then there's awareness, or awareness itself, which is again pointing at the absolute realm of transcendence. And they're both true. And there's no conflict, other than in our minds. There is no conflict. There's actually a beautiful synchronicity, a beautiful flowing back and forth. No different than the tides go back and forth, the ebb and they flow. The day arises, the night comes, the stars come out, stars fade, the day arises, the light then fades, colors fade, dark comes. And it's just this beautiful rhythm, no different than your breath, no different than standing up and sitting down, no different than anything. There's this rhythm and harmony to life. And we're the last again to know anything about it. But the people who are in that, and it's called flow, it's even got a term of it now in the field of psychology, is from my former alma mater, where he talked about this perfect line between the skills and abilities you bring and the demands being asked of you in the environment. And when those are perfectly matched, there's this beautiful line that matches those, and that's called flow. And it happens with artists, it happens with sports people, it happens when people are at the absolute top of their game. And all they've done, I think, is get their ego out of the way. They've become unself-conscious, you might say, and they're able to show up. And they're doing something they love, they have muscle memory, they have whatever they have to draw upon, and they just wing it. Kind of like how Gary presented earlier. He had a few things showing up, but he was mainly winging it. He was, as I saw it, and he was just in the flow of that energy, and then it came to a crescendo, and now we're on to the next thing. You know, he was just with it. There wasn't a script. It didn't have to be rehearsed. It was just flowing directly out of him, wasn't it? A beautiful expression. And that's what's available for every one of us in our own gifts that we bring, whatever place we're here to hold in the world, whatever contribution we're here to make.